Donald Trump never gave a damn about Charlie Kirk. Of course, that much was made clear in his fake eulogy last night, in which the most narcissistic man in history spent the whole time praising himself. But this is exactly what Donald Trump has done every day in the wake of Kirk's shooting, exploiting a false memory of a man who Republicans for some reason hail as a civil rights advocate. This is not the case, but Trump exploited that idea to expand his authoritarian project. He's not mourning a friend, he's using this fake memory. But what Donald Trump didn't consider is that there are clips of Charlie Kirk that aren't too favorable for him on one of the biggest scandals, the biggest scandal in this administration, his Epstein scandal. And a video that has now gone public thanks to the person Donald Trump hates most in Congress, Thomas Massie. He's freaking out over what was revealed about his relationship with Epstein, and we are going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way and supporting our work. Now, before we can get into that clip of Kirk that is blowing up Donald Trump's Epstein scandal, I want to start with the latest example of how Donald Trump is running from the truth, trying to cover up, and that's courtesy of Kash Patel, who was called out by Adam Schiff.
Well, I think he lied to our committee repeatedly, most specifically when I asked him, in addition to those questions, about the firing of top FBI agents who have reported in a civil complaint that Patel basically told them that they were going to get rid of anyone who investigated Donald Trump. Didn't matter what the merits were. They were going to get rid of anyone who investigated Donald Trump, and there was nothing that these agents could do about it. And he acknowledged that he would get sued and it might be illegal, but they were going to do it anyway. So when I asked him about those allegations, he denied them all. I think that he will be deposed in that civil litigation and shown to be lying to the U.S. Congress. But also, he testified that the only person they had evidence that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked young women to was Jeffrey Epstein. That after, for years, calling for the release of Jeffrey Epstein's list, effectively, he was saying that the only person on that list was Jeffrey Epstein. I don't think anyone buys that, and I don't think it's consistent with what victims have said. So, sadly, we have this person now running the FBI who's not respected by the people in the Bureau, who is incompetent, as we saw in his erroneous announcements that they had the suspect in custody when they didn't, regarding the terrible shooting of Charlie Kirk. So, I worked with the FBI for years as a prosecutor. They are the premier law enforcement agency in the country, but right now they are under the worst possible leadership.
It is important to recognize that Donald Trump is not just covering for himself when he is hiding the Epstein files. He is also covering for every single one of Epstein's associates who is still alive and who could potentially give sworn testimony that would blow up this scandal even further for Trump. He doesn't want them talking because he knows he cannot protect them, he cannot hide them like he can hide himself or the documents that the government has. Their testimony is inflammatory and is incriminating to Donald Trump. It's the reason why he doesn't want anyone talking about Ghislaine Maxwell, mentioning the multiple members of Donald Trump's cabinet who were also friends with Epstein. That is what Patel is trying to hide, just as much as she is trying to hide Donald Trump's own name, which we know is in the Epstein files. And we know Trump has a deeper connection than just this cover-up over the past couple of years. It went back to Epstein's first sweetheart deal with Alex Acosta, which Jasmine Crockett shines some light on right here, very pertinent to what Charlie Kirk said in the video we're going to see.
And based on the little information that I know about what he had back then, in my opinion, he had more than enough evidence, but he was arguing that he didn't. And I said, well, let me ask you this. Towards the end of the time that I was going to be there, I asked him, I said, normally prosecutors consult with the victims. And there are some cases that I've had to go to trial on, not because the prosecutor necessarily wanted to, but after they consulted with the victims were saying, no, I want my day in court and whatever happens, happens. Yeah. But that didn't happen. And that's why you had a problem. And so he gave all these excuses about.
And also they didn't alert the victims.
Correct, because they weren't.
Plea deal.
No, he was telling us about all these conversations he was having, but he wasn't having the conversations with the people that were a part of the case.
Donald Trump has always surrounded himself with people close to Epstein. And why is that? It's not just because they were all best buddies. It's because Donald Trump knew he needed to keep that circle nice and tight if he could avoid accountability, which he thinks he can. But that's not going to be the case, especially when his so-called martyr is having his memory not just used to bolster Trump, but to blow up Trump's Epstein scandal, and that's courtesy of Thomas Massie. Massie shared this clip of Charlie Kirk and said, release all the Epstein files.
I think the DOJ should immediately move to unseal all the Epstein documents in the Southern District of New York.
Yeah. Everything. And everything except child sexual assault material.
I think every file should be released to the public the same way as the JFK files. Let the American people decide.
Put them out there, because if there's nothing in there then we can see there's nothing in there.
Now, Donald, if you want to honor the memory of your so-called friend, a man who you apparently will go to the edge of the earth to protect, because, of course, we have to shut down Jimmy Kimmel if he's mocking Charlie Kirk. Everything Charlie Kirk said was sacred. We have to honor all of his wishes. Why won't you release those Epstein files? And it's mysterious, not that I want to get into conspiracy territory, because we don't need to. The conspiracy speaks for itself. But so Kirk had changed his tune on Epstein. He initially, at that Turning Point conference, if you remember, this was right as the scandal was really blowing up, was telling people, don't talk about this. Well, we don't, let's move on. We should focus on something else. It was Trump at that time writing crazy posts saying that this was all a Democrat hoax. The first time that he had said that. Charlie Kirk was talking to all these young people. They were saying, we care about the Epstein files. We want to know what's in them. And Kirk finally came around and he says, yeah, I previously said, we remember this. Remember when Charlie said, I trust my friends in the government? He doesn't trust settled silence on vaccines. He didn't trust that the 2020 election was, free and fair, which it was. Didn't trust the government then. But when it came to Donald Trump covering up for his pedophile buddy, Charlie trusted the government. But then something changed. His mind changed. He had a different position. Release all the Epstein files. And then what else changed? Well, it seems like a lot. Now, I don't want to push that conspiracy, because I don't need to. We know Donald Trump is willing to do whatever it takes to cover up the Epstein files. But it is kind of odd that of all of the clips that Republicans are posting, all of the ways that they want to honor this man's memory, including with a state funeral, they don't want to release the Epstein files? Charlie was calling for it. If you care about the guy, shouldn't you want to honor his memory? No? You want to move on from this? Oh, they want to move on from this issue. Of course they do. Of course, this is the thing that they don't want to talk about. They want to, in fact, silence it. And I have to say one more time, I don't know how much we are going to be talking about Charlie Kirk in the future. I don't know if Republicans are going to try to shove their false memory down our throat even more. I was disappointed. Disappointed doesn't even begin to cover how I felt about all the Democrats voting for that resolution, honor him. Jasmine Crockett put it so perfectly. Not a single woman of color did. I think that tells you everything you need to know about who Charlie Kirk targeted, who he wanted his supporters to harass, and they did, of course, in the wake of his death, immediately calling in bomb threats to HBCUs, because that's the type of people Charlie Kirk inspired. That's the political movement that was so important to him. That's what it was about, harassing black people. But I have to say one more time, Charlie Kirk didn't give a fuck about free speech. He didn't. Charlie Kirk didn't care about debate. Charlie Kirk wasn't debating. Charlie Kirk was on college campuses, not because he wanted to hear people out. Never did he hear people out. In fact, multiple times, he would kick them off the microphone, stop certain individuals from speaking. Didn't want to be confronted. If Charlie Kirk cared about debate, he would have been debating experts. He went to colleges because he thought they were easy targets, and because he wanted to make his case against higher education. Because ultimately, the right wants you dumb, wants you isolated, wants you falling in line with what they want. Charlie Kirk didn't care about free speech. So let's make that clear. This administration doesn't either. They don't. And we have to stop letting the right win on this issue, especially as Donald Trump is going out of his way to silence anyone who will speak up. And Jamie Raskin, someone who knows the law of this a lot better than I do, had exactly that to say.
It is illegal for anyone to speak ill of the president like that? That's what Yamiche just reported that Donald Trump said.
Well, certainly in communist China it is, and in Vladimir Putin's Russia it is, in any totalitarian society it is, but not where you've got the First Amendment. I love Jimmy Kimmel. I love Bruce Springsteen. Donald Trump hates them. We each have the ability to go see what we want to see and watch what we want to watch. But when he uses the power of the government to try to remove a comedian from a broadcast licensee, that is coercive censorship. And there are Supreme Court decisions going back to 1963 on this. Bantam Press is a case where basically the Supreme Court said the government cannot use coercive leverage against private entities in order to censor speakers. And we saw a case like that recently benefiting the NRA versus Vulo out of New York, where, again, the Supreme Court said that a state official cannot use its power to try to get private corporations to censor other people because of their speech. So the idea that now somebody read the cases and is saying, oh, this is just them, it's not us, is contradicted by everything Donald Trump has been saying, because he's been saying that this speech is illegal and shouldn't be allowed and so on. And that's the way he thinks. He thinks like a king, like a monarch, like if you offend him, then suddenly your speech is illegal. They don't defend the right for anybody to speak unless they're speaking in favor of them.
So let's talk about the broadcast licenses, as the president suggested, should be pulled because of the unflattering coverage of him. And then you have FCC Chair Brendan Carr, who said Kimmel will not be, quote, the last shoe to drop. So can you interpret these comments as anything other than an attempt to coerce media companies to stifle criticism? And I'm curious the role that Democrats can play to protect free speech when you're in the minority.
Well, yes, this is plainly what we call under the First Amendment viewpoint discrimination. It is content discrimination. You're discriminating based on the content. And even worse, you're discriminating based on the viewpoint that's being expressed. Donald Trump could not be clearer about it. He's saying these people are saying bad stuff about me. And that's what the kings didn't like. You insult the king, it's like insulting God. It's a form of blasphemy. That's the way the law was with respect to.
This is a criminal and corrupt administration, and we are going to continue to call them out. But we are also going to continue to fight back against the chicken shit CEOs who capitulate to Trump. We will boycott their products. We will call them out. We will cancel subscriptions, and we will fight back. Disney has taken a $4 billion hit to its market cap. Let's make it 5. Let's make it an even 10. Let's show them that they still work for us, not Donald Trump. I wrote about that in my Substack, which you can check out in the link below. It'll also be at some point linked right here. Becoming a paid or free subscriber to my Substack, one of the best ways to support the show. We have really knocked up the subscribers recently. It's been really cool to see. I'm writing a lot over there. And if you want to support the show in other ways, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.